as we know, for those that aren't listening live but are watching it at a delay, welcome as well. You're in for a pretty insightful time here with Ben Pusney. So thanks, Ben, for coming on. Ben's obviously one of the big wigs at Masuri. Not always self-proclaimed, but he is definitely one of the key guys, especially in Australia and New Zealand. So, Ben, thanks for coming on. Can you just give us a little bit of a rundown, really, of what your role entails? Also, we know that you work for Masuri, but what goes into that?
Yep. Well, I guess it's quite broad. I'm not really sure what you'd call it, but I guess a lot of different touch points from our retailers. Our big sort of cricket stores and stockists across the country. I guess our sort of pro team partnerships, so our Cricket Australia, our states and our BBL franchises. The same across in New Zealand, have a hand in our product development and our sort of managing our sponsored players. And then also with our sort of sales guys, we've got a sales team here in Australia and kind of oversee those guys, and I'm on hand to guide them through their sort of daily tasks. So that, there's lots of different moving parts. It's a fun job. It's in cricket, it combines cricket and business, which are two things I really enjoy. I guess it's a dream job, growing up, reading the Greg Chappell cricket catalogue, to have your kid in there now and stuff that you help contribute to. It's pretty surreal at times. So it's a great job, but lots of different things, and there's never really a dull day.
Yeah, nice. And I actually can't really remember, and I guarantee you most of the people on here won't really understand the origins of Masuri, but they've sort of just come to a point where now, I see Masuri and I see them as the leader in the helmet space. So how did it all, give us a bit of a timeline of where Masuri got to basically the household name and go-to helmet brand?
Yeah, so I think we're in a really fortunate position now, but it's been, quite, earned over time. It's actually 30 years now, 1991. The company started in Cape Town, South Africa. Originally started purely with a face guard, so the grill component of a helmet.
Oh, yeah.
Back when you could have, separate grills and helmets, and they were a sort of moving component. And then that evolved over time into the full helmet that you see now. So production left South Africa at one point and went across to India. And then in time, we took it back to what is now our homeland, I guess, which is the UK, which is where our manufacture is controlled and done now. So it's been a long journey across those 30 years. And I agree that there was a sort of tipping point where Masuri became the helmet. I think in Australia, especially, we've seen it slowly drip fed in through a few guys in the Australian team at a certain point. And then, the next thing you knew it was everywhere, wasn't it? Like through club cricket and on TV, and it really sort of took off. And I think in the last few years, it's been even more exciting with the introduction of things like our teamwear division. And then, the last 2 seasons, the introduction of equipment and bats, pads, gloves, and all that sort of cricketing hardware to give us a 360-degree range. So I think the first probably 25 years were a steady growth period, and the last 5 have been a really exciting, fast phase for the business.
Yep, sweet. And I think from my memory, it was Matty Hayden, I think, one of the first blokes running around using the Masuri. I could remember that fairly fondly. I think it was
Hayden, Simons and Clark in that Ashes series when all the legends retired. And I think my take on it is that guys were going to England in our off-season playing county cricket, where we've always been a strong brand. They'd come home having worn a Masuri helmet, and that's how I think it kind of phased into the Australian market and then really took off from there. But it was that series, I agree, Matty Hayden and those guys were probably the starter of that phase. Yeah.
And what sort of goes into a helmet manufacturing business? Like what is it made up of? Like, is there, as you said, there's warehouses, do you have your own, do they do all the production, and then how does it all sort of work? How many staff, all that sort of stuff?
Yeah, the staff fluctuates. It's such a seasonal business, as I'm sure you guys understand with the ACI, where it's really based around, that pre-season selling across summer, and then it sort of drops off over the winter time. But from a production point of view, I guess it all starts with a designer. So we've got a designer that designs the products. There's a lot of, I guess, 3D or digital work that goes into that before you move to 3D modeling, and then the development phase starts. And then, you source your components and all the things that go into making up, in effect, what becomes a Masuri helmet. Once you get that stage, there's a lot of testing, because obviously we need to now meet ICC-driven compliancy laws, which are in place and have been for a while now, around that British standard that everybody speaks about. Yes, so I think a lot of the work comes from once you've actually got the helmet made, and then it's your testing and compliancy process and all the stuff that allows it to then be sold into the marketplace. But yeah, a lot goes into it. It's a pretty drawn out process to go from concept to completion and then compliant and be sold in shops.
I'm quite interested to hear, Ben, what are the new developments you have in player safety at the moment, or in helmet safety? Because it's quite interesting sort of looking back 10 years ago, 20 years ago, and what helmets used to look like, or what the protective equipment was. What are sort of the new trends that you're looking at building at Masuri at the moment?
I think from a Masuri point of view, we've seen a shift in the last few years where we went through that phase of the Vision series, which I'm not sure if you're aware, how big a cricket nuffer you are, but we had the navy side plates on the helmet. Had the halo design and the twin bar grille, and it really was a market leading helmet that sort of led the way. It was also quite heavy. And I think as we've sort of developed and learnt and pushed the boundaries, we've been able to achieve the same levels of protection and compliancy, but in a much lighter helmet, which is now in the original series, or what's our core range now, with the yellow, cooler looking side plates, if you like. So yeah, we've been able to maintain that Masuri level of safety and performance, but at a lot lighter and more comfortable helmet, and probably much more like what Joel touched on before, the helmet that Matty Hayden and the guys wore a few years ago, which everybody loved because it was so light and comfortable. Obviously, as protection levels were increased, and the helmets had to go with it, and sort of been like a full circle now where we're in what was that original feeling comfortable helmet with a nice lightweight.
And you, there's been now, like I've seen Cricket Australia, and there's certain rules around safety and protection, which isn't governed by you, but you guys have to obviously abide by it because that's your brand and what you do. What are some of the key parts that are coming in, or if they haven't now, that are about to come in terms of is it the helmet compliance and the rule around what sort of helmets you're able to have? Or
yeah, and that's been in place for a while, and Masuri and every other helmet manufacturer in Australia, at least, we have to abide by that ICC-driven British standard compliancy. In effect, now a retailer in Australia can't sell a non-compliant cricket helmet, and I guess that starts with the suppliers having to supply compliant helmets. So it's a long way around, but there's a list of ICC compliant helmets. So if you're on that list, and in effect you can be sold in an Australian cricket store or a sports store. And the main, I guess, trigger points for a parent or a kid or anyone looking for a new helmet are the really identifiable things, which are that fixed grille. So in the past, where we used to be able to adjust the grille and everyone had the really big gap because you wanted to be able to see the ball and all those sorts of things. So there's been that fixed grille with the gap that the ball won't get through. There's been a huge reduction in facial injuries, if any at all, since these levels of protection and compliance have come in, which is a great thing for the game. There's a lot of reinforcement through the peaks of the helmet, and it's really just, I guess, strengthening up those vulnerable spaces or areas on a helmet where people are unfortunately getting hurt. Because cricket can be a dangerous game, but with the right equipment and people following these levels of compliance that are set out by the governing bodies, and I think we've actually made it a pretty safe sport now, and we're not seeing those nasty facial injuries that occurred, 5, 6, 7, 10 years ago.
Yeah, and what you were saying, there's a list. Are those lists, are they accessible? How could people know what brands are compliant with helmets and not?
Yeah, I think it's all, if you log on to the ICC website, there's a list under equipment, or I'm not sure of the actual heading, but yeah, it's a publicly accessible list, so you can see what's been passed as a compliant, in effect, legal helmet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that the key thing that not a lot of people take for granted, but it's sort of I've seen a lot of people previously that rather jib themselves on a quality helmet than pay more for a cricket bat sort of thing. But you got to think about, you're actually protecting the most important thing on you.
Yeah, I know.
To make sure that you're making sure, and whether that's a Masuri helmet or whatever, they've got to be compliant, don't they? It can't just be someone who just rocks up and goes, oh, this is my helmet now because we've made it. You want to make sure that what you are putting on your head actually will protect you.
Yeah, exactly right. And I guess bats are more fun, aren't they? We all love going to a cricket shop, and I know if I go visit a store or one of our retailers, the first thing I do is I go to the bat wall. I want to pick up cricket bats because that's the fun part of the game, which is smashing balls. But helmets and other parts of the your kit can become an afterthought, but in actual fact, a lot of the time they're probably the most important. So I think, the upside now that everyone's releasing helmets that are compliant. So, it's a safer space to be playing in, which is great.
Does that exclude those? I mean, we've seen some funny designs over the years, like a lot of face masks and grills, all sorts of things. Are they out the window now? Are they not a possibility anymore?
If you're talking about with wicket keepers wearing, I don't believe they're compliant. And again, they'd be on that list. But I think brands now have probably seen that keepers wanted something more comfortable and more fit for purpose. I know we've got a wicket keeping helmet in our range, which is quite light. It's got the scalloped out back bit at the back of the neck when the keeper squats down. Yeah. It's also fully compliant and guys can bat in that helmet. So the keeper doesn't need two helmets. So I think there's been a lot of development since. I think Darren Berry and those guys in the early days were doing it, probably purely for a comfort point of view. And I think now we've probably evolved where that allows keepers to be comfortable and safe, which is the best of both worlds.
Nice. And so I think some key things, if we are having you on here and talking about the helmet compliance and things, what should parents, kids, players look for when they're what are some key parts about selecting the helmet or the helmet that needs to be, really safe for them?
As in visual things to identify?
Yeah.
Yeah, just bear with me, I guess.
And there's a lot of people are asking as well. We might have to show them through what helmets are in the background too.
They're all the big bash teams.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not sure if you can see this. So when I was talking about the fixed grills, obviously where we've got the screws here.
Yeah.
So we used to have the adjustable nuts where you had all the different options of where a grill could be positioned, and then that affected the gap at the front and all those sorts of things. So I think, obviously the fixed grill's your first trigger or identifier now. You see the peaks now are a lot thicker, a lot more reinforced through here. So that sort of front-on impact's less of an issue than what it used to be with the real paper-thin peaks that were quite flimsy. I think if everyone recalls that. And then generally inside the helmet, there's normally there should be that sticker around that BSI, or that British Standard compliancy, or that safety certification. And they're probably the main things you're looking for. It's normally on the packaging as well. And most of the guys in the cricket shops will be able to guide you through that as well. But in effect, like I said before, you walk into a cricket store now, all the helmets on the shelf will or should be fully compliant. So, from a visual point of view, they're the main things that I'll be looking for. The sticker that identifies the British Standard, your fixed grill, your thicker, strong peak as a starting point. And then I guess there's a big wide range of helmets to choose from out there as well, which is a whole different scenario.
Yeah, nice. Yeah. In terms of materials and things like that, not going in too much, but you guys, everyone, there's a range of even other helmets brands. Is what are the two? Steel. There's a steel.
Steel and titanium are the most popular. Yeah.
Yeah. And what would the difference really be between those helmets? And how do you see the fluctuations or variances in your sort of types of helmets you have?
If you look from a pro level down, the big boys, they're all wearing, and girls, they're wearing titanium grill. It's for weight. Generally these guys and girls are batting for longer at training, probably batting for longer in games, and weight does become an issue if you're batting 4 or 5 hours a day. Sometimes, the volumes of guys and girls are training, then I think titanium does come into play.
Yeah.
In saying that, the majority of the helmet world's probably in steel grill helmets. And again, it's a personal choice, and it's also a cost thing. So titanium obviously is a more expensive raw material, and that flows through to the end product. Both are perfectly fine, and both tick compliancy levels and meet all the standards that you need to. I guess it's just a more advanced or premium product if you go into a titanium grill. It's purely a weight thing, and comfort.
And are there general pace, peaks in? So what I'm sort of trying to get to is, the kids understanding that they don't have to get the titanium grill most of the time, because they're probably not facing the forces or the speeds that sometimes that elite cricketers might be having, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's more about weight and comfort versus protection levels.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's nothing wrong with a steel grill helmet, and the majority of the world's helmets, I would say, are steel grills. So again, if that's what you're getting, then you're perfectly well protected and safe.
Yeah, perfect.
And then the other thing to bear in mind is that there's different levels of compliancy for different weighted balls. So a junior cricket ball is different to a senior cricket ball, and that's why junior helmets are graded different and all those sorts of things. Obviously, ball size comes into it, what will fit through what gap or potentially push through the grill and peak. So,
yeah, perfect. Anything for
Uh,
the helmet stuff, Seba?
Out of interest, Ben, who are some of like the brand ambassadors you guys have as as pro players, and do you talk with them when you're sort of designing helmets and about how they feel about it as well?
We don't have individual brand ambassadors as such in the helmet space. So we've obviously got Alex Carey as an equipment ambassador, so his bats, pads, his wicket keeping gear. We generally align with the governing bodies who are protecting their players with the safest helmet in the market. So, player feedback goes into it. We conduct fitting sessions with all the pro players across the world, World Cup events and state fittings at pre-season times and things like that. So we're always asking them what they like and things they prefer. But in regards to an ambassador, it's more like we'll align with Cricket Australia as the official helmet supplier in each state and things like that.
Yep.
Nice.
Fantastic.
We've had a couple of other people on as well in terms of industry experts, but also other people in cricket industries. And the big thing that we like to educate players on is that cricket, everyone might want to play for Australia and it might happen, but there's also a heap of other industries that you can really immerse yourself into through your passion of cricket. And obviously, you have the ability to do it. Give a bit of a bit of a snapshot of what it's like working in the industry, but what do you do? Do you get to travel much? How does all that work?
Yeah, I'm quite fortunate in my role. There's a lot of travel, obviously with partners across Australia and New Zealand, and then obviously your ICC events. I was lucky enough for the last World Cup to pretty much fly in prior to the World Cup and fit all the teams before the tournament. Then I had to come home and do some work in Australia, so I didn't actually get to see a lot of the cricket. Yep. But flying in to pre-tournaments to fit each team out and make sure all the players are comfortable and have their backup helmets and things like that. And then I guess with all our state partners, getting around to see those guys. And then, components or certain phases of product development, lucky enough to travel to our, manufacturers and factories across the world. So, there is some really cool, exciting things that are part of the job that you probably don't get to experience in other industries. Cricket being a global game, I guess we've got an advantage that, as an AFL employee, hypothetically, most of your work's going to be based around Australia. We're lucky that cricket's spread across everywhere. So it takes us to a lot of places, as you guys have done with your tours and things. So, there's a lot of variety and some cool things that happen along the way.
Yeah, sweet. And you mentioned before, Alex Carey is your ambassador. We actually had Alex on last week, I think, and he did an awesome job. Everyone loved it. We had heaps of really good feedback. Just talk us through what sort of what goes down to potentially, not without going into too much detail about everything, but how do you go about getting ambassadors in and what's he like to work with, everything like that?
I think, firstly, as with a brand ambassador, it's someone that probably reflects the values of your brand. They're the face, or I guess the billboard for your company. So we certainly look for people that reflect our core values and the messaging that we like to portray as a brand. So that was probably the first starting point, and that's why Alex obviously was attractive for us and popped up on our radar, and someone we really wanted to work with. We had a good relationship with Alex from doing his helmets and working with him in that space over the last few years. And then the opportunity arose where we launched our equipment, and Alex was an ambassador that we were hoping to get in Masuri kit, and luckily enough we did. And it's been great since then. He had a fantastic World Cup when he started using the gear, and it's probably helped, I guess, kickstart the Masuri equipment, or that move into that space as opposed to just helmets.
Yeah.
From a point of view of working with Alex, he's great. I guess he has a lot of input. He says he's a cricket nuffy as well. He loves his gear. He got really involved in the wicket keeping range and had a lot of input into developments and certain things he likes in that space, and took a lot of interest in the junior gear as well, and really wanted the junior players to have very similar aspects or components of their equipment that's in his gloves that he wears day to day. And I thought that was great that he was so engaged and interested in the entry level product as well, as opposed to that premium top end stuff. So great in that regard. Always coming up with ideas and things that he's always tinkering. But yeah, he's very easy to deal with. He's not too fussy. So yeah, it's been enjoyable so far, and he's had a great start to his time with Masuri equipment. It's been good.
Nice. Anyone who has questions, whack them in the Q&A bar. We've got a few of them. The one that I'll start with is, I don't know the exact answer, but are stem guards compulsory? And if not, do you think they should make them compulsory?
They're not compulsory at the moment.
Okay.
There's a lot of noise in the world around stem guards that's obviously driven from those governing bodies and things like that. I don't know. It's a tough question. I think they probably will be at some stage.
Yeah.
I'm all about if we've got a safer sport and less players are getting injured and missing games of cricket, which is what we all love, which is playing cricket, training, playing, etc. If it creates a safer sport and we're all better off for it, then yeah, I'm all for it, in my opinion. Yeah.
Very nice. This is actually a good one. It's obviously meant in good jest. Sophie's asked, do stem guards have the same protection as the helmets, or is there there's obviously some different components to it and everything like that? So how does that sort of work?
Yeah, they're measured against the same tests that a helmet goes through. So the same compliancy levels and testing methods that are used on a helmet are what are currently used on neck protectors.
Yeah.
Ryan Royce has put in a good one here. Is there any technology, Ben, in helmets that reduce your chance of concussion?
I think the idea of a helmet's to minimise. Concussion's obviously a hot topic across the world in all sports, not just cricket. I think by wearing a safe, compliant helmet that fits well, I think the fit of a helmet is probably the most important part. Then hopefully, as helmet manufacturers, we'll go a long way to minimising or reducing concussions. In regards to stopping concussion, that's a totally different area. But minimising and reducing, that's going to be a great thing for everybody.
And I'm sure that statistics will certainly reflect that over the last 20 years. Every year it's going down and down and down, and it's certainly becoming a lot more safer.
Yeah. We've had an anonymous one come in. For those that probably don't know what a stem guard is, what does it actually do, and what does it look like? Where does it attach? Because I don't think all juniors have them at the moment. If you do have one, if not, all good.
Yeah. I haven't got one in front of me, but it's in effect, it's the neck protector that clicks onto the back of the grill here.
Yeah. That
protects that vulnerable space just sort of below the ear or at the top of the neck. Yeah.
Very good.
Yep.
One here, Thomas. What are some of the tests, or just describe some of the tests that you do to test a helmet to make sure it's safe? What do they do? Do they just throw balls at it, or how does it sort of work? Yeah,
in effect, I guess it's all about impact absorption. There's certain levels of impact absorption that you need to meet, and it's as drop test is the main test that tests that, and then there's in effect an air cannon that tests whether balls will force their way through grill and peak. So there's a variety of tests that test the helmets from all different angles and trying to meet different criteria. So it's quite complex. You box your helmets up and you send them off to the independent test house, and you get your test results back. So everyone has to conform to the same level and consistent testing methods.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Thomas has asked, what's the most challenging thing in the helmet industry? And as a person in such a high position as yours, like obviously going around and dealing with different countries and all of the people, what's probably the most challenging thing in the industry of helmets?
Tough question. It's a good question.
But they have some pretty good ones.
I probably think back. The way I approach it is I just try and make a player as comfortable as I possibly can. So I think if you're comfortable wearing a product and you feel safe and almost you don't even feel like it's there, then they're more inclined to want to wear the product. So I think the biggest challenge is making people comfortable in a helmet, because the main reason people say I don't want to wear it is because it feels uncomfortable, or it's heavy, or it's loose, or I can't see. So I think the focus and the priority for me, from my point of view, is fitting a helmet properly and making someone comfortable in that product. No different to why do you choose a certain bat? Because it feels right, or it's light, or, you know. So I think it's just about making people comfortable in the helmet, and then them wearing it almost takes care of themselves.
Perfect. This is actually a good one. Daniel Sinclair has asked, so he goes, "Hi Ben, I'm a wicket keeper and I have troubles putting my helmet on with my sunglasses because of the chin guard. Do I need to have the chin guard, or can you take it off? Is that like a prerequisite or a part of the safety standards to have that helmet on?"
Yeah, to keep the helmet on safely. And I think if we look at the World Cup where Alex got hit and his helmet come off, and you know, obviously Joffrey hit him quite hard, and the strap broke and all that sort of stuff. So without that strap, it would have been even worse than what actually happened. So yeah, it's a tricky one. Tim Payne, he seems to get his glasses in through the helmet and the strap. Yeah, I'm not really sure without seeing how it's fitting and what sunglasses he's trying to wear.
Yeah.
No doubt it's something.
More of a safety thing. It's really important to keep that chin guard on there.
Absolutely. Yeah. So if it means working around that strap, then whilst it might be a little bit inconvenient for your safety and for the helmet to perform properly, then the strap needs to stay on.
Yeah. So Daniel Sinclair's asked, what do you do if your helmets don't comply with the regulations? I'm guessing all of your helmets do, so there's no issue there, like nothing around that. You just have to make something.
Yeah, from a Masuri point of view, all our helmets do. If he's asking personally if your own helmet doesn't, then that's more of a governing body, Cricket Association type question. But from a Masuri point of view, yeah, we've only got fully compliant helmets in the range.
Yeah. And so at the moment, is that the rules around that is going to change fairly quickly, or it has been? All junior cricketers, all cricketers have to have helmets that are compliant, don't they?
Yeah, it's been a phased in ruling. I think there's a strong recommendation that players are wearing fully compliant helmets. And again, each state and territory may have a slightly different ruling. So my advice would be to check with your governing body around what their stance is on it. There's definitely been a shift from all governing bodies to push that messaging. But again, there's a little bit of variance in each state or territory.
Yeah. Tommy Armstrong has asked, how long does production on a helmet take, like roughly? Not including the shipments and everything like that, but it's just more getting the helmet together. Is it a mass production where there's warehouses and lines of equipment being made, or is it a hand thing? How does that all work?
Well, it's quite quick. Yeah, it's almost like a fancy Lego or Meccano set where they all click together and it comes together quite quickly from start to finish. So, yeah, if you had all the components for a helmet laid out on a table in front of you, then depends how quick or how good you are at your job. Yeah. But, you know, you're probably under 20 minutes.
Yeah, right.
In building a helmet. Yep.
Perfect. Tom Lowe's asked, can you get custom helmets to fit your head, even if you are an amateur, or is there just size ranges? Like, there's no customized option in that regard, is there?
Well, much like what we do with the professional guys and girls, where the helmets come in set sizes, so junior sizes and then the different senior sizes, and then it's the different foams that go inside, so the different thickness foams that go inside the helmet. So you can see, so it's like these parts at the front and the back come in a lot of different thicknesses, and it's really just experimenting with those until you get that nice fit. The best way to know a helmet's fitting good, in my opinion, is you want it to sit as low down on the eyebrow as you can to push everything down so your bar feels like it's lower. And then if your thumb in the back of the helmet, if there's not a lot of space there and it's fitting quite snug without being too tight, then you're getting somewhere to the perfectly fitting helmet. But it's just probably about experimenting with, you know, the foams that come in the box certainly with our helmets, and then there's aftermarket ones available if you might need a different size outside of what comes with the helmet. And then, yeah, just sort of finding the right fit.
Nice. What else? Blake Phillips asks, in your opinion, which helmet in the steel range is the best in terms of value?
Oh, Blake, probably a T-line steel, I think. T-line steel is probably our most popular helmet. It's a comfortable helmet. And without a titanium grill, it's probably the closest to what our guys and girls in the professional levels are wearing. So, yeah, if you're looking at a steel helmet, I think the T-line's probably where it's at. Senior and junior size are available. So, yeah, that one's year in, year out. That's a popular helmet across all regions.
Nice.
Other than helmets, Ben, what else do Masuri specialise in, or what else are you guys working on at the moment on your range?
We obviously got our teamwear range where we're supplying clubs and schools with their custom clothing. And then as we sort of touched on with Alex and those things, the bats, pads, gloves, the equipment side of things has been an exciting development and a really cool part of the job, because as cricketers, we all love playing with that sort of cricket gear. It's more fun than the helmets, isn't it? But and then obviously this season in Australia, we'll be launching the wicket keeping range, which Alex has been wearing, was a big part of the product development side of that. So I think that's an exciting addition to the equipment range this year. And that's probably where most of the hype and I guess fuss has been around. And just really having that full cricket range now, having a full 360 offering, which is great. As a nuffy, you like to match your kit up, so now you can be head to toe with a nice matching blue and gold kit.
No, we'll certainly keep our eye out for that.
Adam Eastgate, he's asked, what do you think is the best way to choose a helmet? Do you want something that will last you a while, but maybe a little big or something, or that may not last you as long, but is a completely snug fit? Obviously, there's money factors and everything like that, but from your thought, what would you sort of think would be the best way to go about choosing a helmet?
Yeah, it's all about fit. It's got to fit properly. I don't think a helmet's something you buy to grow into. Much like a cricket bat, I think if you buy a bat that's too heavy, it's going to affect your game, and whilst you might grow into it in time, it'd be detrimental in that sort of growing phase. So it's really about getting it to fit properly, which again, anyone that services the cricket retail is about to help with that. So to get a helmet that fits properly. If you can use the foams in the helmet to allow a little bit of growth, if you're a junior where your head's still growing, then you can start with the different thickness padding as you do grow. But the fit's most important. Yeah.
And even from there, like you said, there's a whole heap of different ranges. And from what you've said, it's either steel or titanium, doesn't matter. They're still going to be compliant. They're still going to work. So even if you do have a different budget, some people have budgets for different things, you're still going to be able to get a helmet that will protect you the way it should be.
Absolutely. And, from our point of view, our helmets start from under $100 and work their way up in Australian dollars. So I think, as you spoke before, what price do you put on your head or your safety? But if you can get something for that under $100 mark, then I think that's a really good starting point for a Masuri fully compliant helmet.
Yeah, perfect. Couple of other questions. Actually, have you ever thought of it? So this is from Rohan Handa. I think he's actually in the UK. Arm guards. Have you ever looked at developing those? Obviously, because you do helmet stuff. Have you looked at other protection parts as well? Or
absolutely.
You have any secrets or anything yet? But
we've worked or discussed concepts and what may or may not work. We've got the wrist bar on our gloves, which I'm not sure if the guys have seen that, which sort of covers off that vulnerable area just on where I broke mine, actually. Sort of an extension of the sweatband and covers off that vulnerable part. I guess we're always exploring different things to make the sport safer. As a protection specialist, that's our main focus and an area that we like to really work in. So, absolutely. It's something we're definitely experimenting with and always seeing what's out there. And I think we've seen some great safety products over the last few years in a lot of different areas. But, absolutely something that we want to keep working on.
Yeah. Hamish has asked, would you recommend getting a stem guard? Like, how do they help and are they worth, like, obviously they are worth it, but what's the recommendation around that?
Yeah, I think so. I think once you get used to it, it's like anything, over time you don't even realise it's there. So if you can get it on and get it to put it on the helmet, there's different size straps at the back. If you experiment with those, much like the padding inside the helmet, in effect, it becomes just another part of the helmet you don't realise is there. And again, if it makes for a safer sport where guys aren't getting hurt or potentially injured, then that's got to be a good thing. So, I would recommend one.
Yeah. One or two more. Most of them are all being generic and answered anyway. But where is it? Bailey Ali has asked, just a question. Why did you call your brand Masuri, or do you know the origination or where it's originated from? Or
I don't. Sorry, Bailey. Yeah, we might have to do some Google work there. I might have to ask a few questions when I'm on the phone to the UK next. So if I find out, I'll let Joel know and he can come back to you hopefully via a direct message.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, mostly all the other stuff that we're getting peppered with questions, they're all similar sort of around, what are you looking for when comfortable and compliance and everything like that. So I think you've hit the nail on the head there, and it's actually a fairly, more in depth than what I think a lot of people think in terms of how it all goes. And, you don't just go, right, we're going to get a bit of cloth and some steel and put it together and that's our helmet. There's a lot of time and effort and money and research that Masuri have done to get to a position where they are. It's not just something that comes in overnight. So appreciate that. A couple of the guys are asking what helmets you've got at the back there. Like, what's
Can you see that or not?
Yeah, can see them.
That's the one.
So you got what? Stars, Renegades, Heat, Hurricanes
and Sixers. Yeah. The Renegades one, I think, signed by Aaron Fitch.
Yeah.
And Glenn Maxwell signed the Stars one. So
yeah, right.
And then obviously the Strikers in the painted one, which.
So not all Big Bash helmets are painted. Hey, it's only the Strikers one, or what?
No, just the Strikers at this stage. Potentially some other teams may come on board with it, but it's a pretty cool thing that we're seeing through some T20 tournaments across the world. A lot of other franchises are doing it. But I think they look great, especially in the night games, and they really sort of light up. One of the guys said after the Strikers one was great because he hadn't got his Father's Day present sorted, so he just got the boys to sign the helmet and he gave it to Dad and happy Father's Day. So, they worked for that as well.
Very good. A couple of others. Nicoline has asked, what's the best part of your job? What do you like the most?
Coming to work, playing with cricket gear every day, I think. Yep.
Doesn't sound like work, does it? And the last one is, who is your favourite player that you've ever met on your job?
Oh, met?
Sure, there's some big dogs.
Oh, probably Ricky Ponting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's Punter, isn't he? He's the biggest.
Best of the best.
Maybe Sachin, but probably Ponting. Being an Aussie boy and grew up in Hobart, I've probably got to go with Ponting.
Yeah. Love it. All right. Well, anything else from you, Seba?
No, that's all good from me. I think I've actually gained a lot out of that as well. Like, I mean, it's interesting to see even in the last 10 years since I've been playing how the helmets have changed, and there's so much going into it. So I really appreciate you coming on, Ben.
You wearing Masuri, Seb?
Absolutely. my club, my whole club signed up, so we don't have a choice.
All right, cool.
Awesome. Thanks very much for your time, Puz. Really appreciate you getting on board and helping out, but also, everyone really learning, what it takes in terms of brands and cricketing gear and everything like that. It's it's quite a long process. It's not just let's think of a helmet and let's go. So, and appreciate the information that you've been giving around the compliance and the safety.
No worries.
Awesome. Right. Thanks, mate.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers.
Ben.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, mate. See ya.